How's everybody doing today? Here we go. Here we go. We're getting all started right here. How's everybody doing today? Appreciate everybody joining me for quality time. You know how we always started out. I show the book that I'm reading now, and then the books that I'm going to read when I finish. I'm a little bit behind on my reading for the year. I usually remember. I don't know if anybody remembers, but I spoke about how recently I stopped trying to really count how many books that I read in a year because that was forcing me to just kind of speed through books and not get the full effect from the book that I would get when I take my time. So I'm more so just focused on actual content from the book. But with that said, I have an 11-year-old and he is racing against me as far as the number of books read for the year. He's on like number 7, and he's not even reading like little short books. I can't really front on him. He's reading good 200-page, chapter books. So I can't even front on the length that he's doing, and he's ahead of me. So I'm trying to catch up. Trying, you know what I mean. But right now, I am finishing up on a book called Black God: An Introduction to the World's Religions and Their Black Gods, written by Dr. Supreme Understanding. That is the book I'm working on right now. The next book, I have a couple of choices. I don't know really which one I'm going to go with. I'm thinking about My People Are Rising, a memoir of a Black Panther Party captain, written by Aaron Dixon. He was a Black Panther chairman in Seattle. Also, Why Should White Guys Have All the Fun? How Reginald Lewis Created a Billion-Dollar Business Empire. That's another book that I want to read. The Great Frantz Fanon, Voices of Liberation, another book that I want to read this year. And then, I'm sorry. Another one that I'm working on that I just picked up actually is Queenie, written by Candace Carter Williams, and My Sister the Serial Killer. And I don't read many fiction books, so I'm trying to get better on my fiction books. If anybody has a fiction suggestion for me, please let me know. There's also an Ernest Gaines book, A Lesson Before Dying, that I want to read. And of course, I try to read James Baldwin and a Toni Morrison book every year. So got the rest of my year kind of stretched thin, but we're gonna get to it. So today I'm talking with a good brother, Goldmouth Book Club. He's out there in California. And My Sister the Serial Killers. That's what I hear. Everybody who I show that book to say, you have to read this next. So I've gotten great recommendations from everybody about the book. So I'm excited to check it out. But yeah, like I was saying, we have a good brother here, Goldmouth Book Club. He is a bookstore owner in California. And a lot of his, reason behind why he does what he does is really running parallel with what I do as well here with the Black Book Club. And we're going to talk to him about starting a book club, and he does a lot of book discussions. They're reading a James Baldwin book right now. And he has a lot of people joining in and discussing books. So we're going to bring him in and we're going to talk to him now. I see my man Marcus right here. More health for you, Marcus. Listen to the Books We Should Have Read podcast. We do a review. Please send me a link to it. I'll definitely check it out. What's going on, brother?
What's happening, bro? What's happening?
All right. Good to see you, man.
Sir, yes, sir.
So, for some people who might not know you, kind of give them a quick introduction.
Oh yeah, my name is D. Renee. I'm the founder of Goldmouth Book Club for hood and ratchet niggas. People who don't want to abide by respectability politics, who want to keep their essence of their culture, but still want to be scholars. So, started it last December, and it's been growing. So God is good.
All right. Now you say you started last December. Like what made you finally kind of take that jump to go ahead and start the Goldmouth Book Club?
Oh man, I always kind of wanted to. I wanted to do like a bunch of like just hood niggas doing like different stuff. You know what I'm saying? And
Right.
that was the first one. Like just reading. I'm a big avid reader. I'm a big on literature, and it just came on my heart to just want to like step out there. I just threw a post out there of my Toni Morrison books, and it got a lot of interaction. So it just made me keep going.
Okay. All right. Bet. So like that's really, what the Black Book Club came from as well. It's just, like you said, people who don't fit into a certain box, but we want to give them as much literature as we can. You know what I mean? And so I remember like when I was in college, I would hang around with the quote unquote nerds, right? But I'd be too abrasive for the nerds. I talk too aggressive for them. And then I go around my people who I'm comfortable with,
Yeah,
and I'm like, hey man, you read this book? They're like, what?
yeah,
And get that shit out of my face. But then I tell them about it, and all of a sudden they come in and say, let me get another book.
exactly.
And so I'd be like, man, I just need to bridge these two together
Yep.
because the problem was a lot of people just didn't hear about it. I'm in Americus, Georgia. I go to the east side. I'm give somebody a James Baldwin book. They look at me crazy, and then 2 weeks later, he like, man, I read that whole book. You got another one? You know what I mean? And so that's really what it was. Is just bringing those together.
Exactly. You're doing good work, man. And people are actually thirsty for knowledge once you connect with them. So yeah, that's a beautiful thing.
And see, and one thing I really appreciate about what you do is, you give the knowledge without dressing it up with these like, look at me, I'm smart words, right? Which I always say that turns people off. It turns me the hell off.
Yeah.
If somebody just throwing out all these SAT words to me, it sounds like they're not really talking to me. You know what I mean? So was that something that you've always done, or is that just something you worked on?
Yeah, there's a temptation to be like academia is very elitist, and by nature, and it's a temptation to show off your intellect. But if you care about the people, you care about who you're talking to. You want to put it in terms that everybody can understand. And I think one of the biggest things when I was being a black kid in high school is a lot of white people made me feel like if I stumbled on my words or I said a word in an African American way, all of a sudden I wasn't smart. You know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
I say math, I don't say math. You know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
I say, you know what I'm saying? So it's like putting it in our terms, you know what I'm saying? Reclaiming the language and not acting like we are improper, but we have our own. James Baldwin actually said that. He said, "Black English is a language. It's its own language, and it should be studied that way." So yeah, just making sure you stay accessible. That's the whole point. You know.
Right. And see, I remember I had a teacher tell me one time. He was like, if you can't explain something in layman's terms, you can't really explain. You don't know what the hell you're talking about anyway.
Exactly. Exactly. I'm a big hip hop fan, so it's like you have people who are like really good with their words, but can't nobody really connect with it. Then you have people like Pac or somebody who can put the words in your lap, you know what I'm saying, and you could like really sit with what he's saying. So that's kind of like the same concept, you know what I'm saying?
Right. You see, I'm in the South, right? So I would always hate when people would hear a Southern drawl and they'd be like, "Oh, this person's not intelligent,"
Exactly.
just because I say, "Yes, I'm is," or "Who that is," or something like that. That's how I speak. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, look, I'm from the South too. I'm just out here in Cali for now, but I'm a Florida boy. I'm a Florida boy through and through. So it's the same thing. And our accent in Florida is even worse than y'all, man. I
Yeah.
understand y'all Georgia boys. Y'all speak well, but Florida, man, is is terrible. So no, it's like separating intelligence from dialect. Because so many people assume intelligence with dialect and make associations. So it's highly important. So let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
What was your
Yeah.
what's your ethos for Black Book Club? Like, what is your focus? Because you said I saw you earlier. You said you don't read much fiction. So like, what's your focus for your book club?
Well, like really, and me not reading a lot of fiction is a knock on me. You know what I mean? I want to read as many fiction books as possible. I just don't. When I go in my library, sometimes I grab autobiographies first.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But like the reason for the Black Book Club and the reason behind it and the main goal for it is just to make reading cool at all times, right? So like, statistically, kids they fall out of love with literature by like 16. because, and then they stay out of love with it until about 24, 25, 26 range. So, and the reason I think that is because we're not giving books that we relate to.
Yeah.
You know, we get about 16, we're doing book reports for high school. So now we're getting into the academic reading ages, right?
Yeah.
And we're giving books that we don't relate to. So we're giving books that don't have characters that look like us.
Or sound like it.
And then, or sound like us, right? And what can happen mentally is if you go 4 or 5 years being given books that nobody looks like you in them, and you're told these are the best books ever, mentally you'll say, well, I don't like these books, or I might not connect with these books, so I don't connect with literature.
Yeah.
Right. So that happened to me. Right. So then I'm in high school and I'm getting B's and D's on these reports because I don't care about Of Mice and Men. I don't really care about, these books. I don't relate to them.
Yeah.
So then I'm telling my mom, like, I don't like reading. And my mom, huge reader, she'll read 2, 3 books at the same time. So I'm like, I don't like reading. So until I got to college, I was in college before I saw a James Baldwin book.
Yeah.
Right. So then I read the James Baldwin book. I'm like, damn, where was this at when I was in high school?
Yeah.
Where was this Toni Morrison? My mom's a huge Toni Morrison fan, so I can't blame her. But it's like, where was Sons of Solomon when I was in 11th grade? Why they didn't tell me about this book? Why they didn't tell me about, Ernest Gaines when I was in school?
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, I got to build some kind of bridge for it. So being able to speak the language of the younger generation, the hip hop generation, and then also give them books that they can relate to is how we kind of bridge that gap.
That's important. It's important.
Of Mice and Men got a chokehold. Yes, Of Mice and Men, my English teacher, I almost dropped out of AP English because he argued that was the best book ever. And I was like, this book is trash.
Man, I about To Kill a Mockingbird. I'm like, this book's so ass, bro. Like, I hate this book, bro. like the moral of this book is just like, it's just a white woman who's racist, but she's a benevolent racist. Basically, I hated that book, man. It's highly important. And Are you an educator? Are you a teacher?
No. I would. My wife's a teacher. I don't have the patience to just teach a subject. You know what I'm saying?
You kind of come off as very like educator type. You got an educator vibe to you, man. So that's really cool. That's really cool.
Yeah, like I just try to talk to the kids, like as many kids as I can, as many, like I got 11-year-olds, so like anybody who, and I talk to anybody in my neighborhood, I know the hell out of.
Yeah.
Like I see kids walking down the street, I give them bookmarks and stuff like that, just so they can see somebody that talks like them, but also reads a lot of books, just to bridge that gap.
Very important. That's extremely important. I've been introducing my Black Student Union kids to Langston and all that. So it's very important to start at that level because those formative years are very important. That's like you said, the disconnection that you get from literature, from reading white literature. That's exactly how it was for me. We ain't read James Baldwin. I remember the first time I ever came across James Baldwin, it was like sandwiched in this like anthology with mostly white writers, but it was Sonny's Blues, and I was like,
okay.
I was like, bro, what the hell? This story is so fire. Like, what the hell? I was like, who is this? And then that was like the first time, but it was always white literature. It was always white everything. You know what I'm saying? So it's very important, like you were saying.
Yeah, like we get it thrown in our face, in our lap. It's like, hey, because I go home, my brother, he's 3 years older than me, and he's reading, Monster. He's reading like an autobiography about Monster. He's reading Malcolm X. I'm like, I want to read that, but my teacher told me I got to read these 3 books. I got to read, these, I can't even name them, these trash books that they're telling me are better than these books here.
Man.
So this is a teacher. So I'm like, he got to know what he's doing.
Yeah.
So I'm reading these books. I'm like, these books are trash. So if these books are trash and you're the literature expert and you're telling me these are great, then I'm not a book reader. So, okay, I'm going outside.
And
you know what I mean?
And it also, from an early age, makes you think in a white voice. If you read like that, it kind of centers white perspectives because the way we're seen, right, is like we're on the side. And so when you center that white perspective, you're kind of indoctrinated to center whiteness in your own mind and your own thought. And unless you like really, push that away and really actively combat that, that colonization of your mind, it definitely can have a lasting effect without you even really knowing about it. So literature is extremely, I mean, the Black imagination is so important that Black kids, Black folk, even especially Black adults, because, we need to remember, the Black imagination and continually stimulate the Black imagination because it's life. You know what I'm saying? It's definitely life, especially Black adults, because we always surviving and doing shit that's like, it's all survival. So when you don't offer them that imagination, it has lasting effects too. So yeah, the literature is extremely important, man.
Yeah, and see, like what you said about Black imagination, you think about how revolutionary Black imagination is. Like I was reading Colson Whitehead, the Underground Railroad, and he talks about how these people were, these enslaved people were enslaved their whole life, and they still had the imagination to escape.
Man,
You know what I mean? They had enough imagination to say, man, this can't be life. Now everybody around me lives life like this. Everybody that I've known has been born into this, has died into this. But they had the imagination to say there's got to be something else
out there,
a couple of states over,
man.
and I'm going there.
Man,
You know what I mean?
that's important. And it's like you think about the end of racism. I don't think many Black people imagine the end of racism. You know what I'm saying? But you have to imagine it. You have to picture it in your mind so that you can reverse engineer it. And that's why Black imagination is so important, because you can kind of engineer that world and reverse engineer it. Steps up to there. Hold on, the ice cream man is outside. Let me close this window.
Oh, ice cream man run the hood.
Yo, man, yeah, But no, it's extremely important, man. And imagination is not, some like willy nilly thing. It really can create a whole new life for you if you pursue it. So, man, there's so many benefits to Black literature. And I came like you. I came to Black literature extremely late. Extremely late. I mean, I know I have a book club, but I'm not the one who's read 40, 50 books. Like, exactly. And that's why I think it's so passionate on our pages, is because we're we're exploring it with our followers, so to speak. You know what I'm saying? We're it's more of a community as opposed to a leader, because I don't see myself like that. I see myself as just on equal footing as everybody else. So no, I'm very grateful that people have caught wind of it and are joining in.
Yeah, and so like when you say that about you're not the person who's read 100 books and has all these books under your belt. I'm in the same boat, right? Were you intimidated at all when you started your getting into like Black Bookstagram and stuff like that because you hadn't read those 150 books?
I mean, initially, yeah, but then I was just like, well, to be honest, it was just like I didn't even really start Goldmouth Book Club to like be the connoisseur of books. It was just like I'm showing like people what I love. You know what I'm saying? And I'm finding all these things, and hopefully that people can catch on to the fire that I have just to collect. I mean, if you see my library, I'm sure yours is huge. You know what I'm saying? And it's like it's more than just reading; it's also the collection and connecting to your ancestors in that way, right? It's like, uh, wow, my people wrote all this junk. Like it's like I didn't even know niggas was out here writing books. Like in my mind, it was just like To Kill a Mockingbird talked about Black folk, and then maybe like that Sony's Blues. But I didn't know I have all my books are all Black, and that's the thing when you can really surround yourself with a Black world. You don't have to put white folk in it. You don't have to, and so that was more so my intention when I started, just showing the Black world. Like, and even I put some movie clips and all that on my page, because it's like we have our own. We could honestly, if you wanted to shut white folk out and just dive into your own people's world, which is what I do, you can do it, and it's extremely nourishing. So that was more so my focus right there.
Yeah, and see, I agree. I was intimidated at first. Like I started the page and I didn't post nothing for a while, and I just started looking at the hashtag.
Yeah.
I'm looking at people that have, they have the books I read in the month, right? I remember it was a January, and somebody said my January reads, and they had like 5 books on the table. I'm like, how the hell You reading 5 books in a month?
That's awesome.
I'm like, there's no way. I can't keep up with that. You know what I mean? I got 2 kids, I got a wife, I got a job. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm not really a part of the Bookstagram,
Yeah,
situation.
yeah,
And now I'm looking at my mom. She's reading 3 books at one time. So I'm like, well, there has to be a place for people who love books, but and not up here just reading a book a week. You know what I mean?
yeah.
And I thought about lying. You know what I mean? Like when I when I start a book, I thought about doing the start a book and then 2 weeks later, hey, I finished this book.
Hell no.
And I'm like, that's not being honest, and that's gonna scare somebody like me away.
I was gonna say it goes back to what you were saying about not really fitting in with like the nerd community, because like when like you and I are kind of like, I mean, there's all black men in Bookstagram, but it's not as much, you know what I'm saying? And like the community that's super book, we might not fit in with them because it's like, we out here doing other stuff, you know what I'm saying? And I like personally to bask with a book for a while. You can like it's a challenge for me doing this book club with my folk to read a book a month, because I don't work like that. I read the book and then the next month I'll be digesting it. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah,
just kind of like having something that's more, because if you look at, like you were saying, the Bookstagram is not really accessible to like everyday person. And I've had people in my inbox say, I don't know where to start. So the things that you and I are doing, I think it's just more easy on the mind and easy on our culture. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, and that's really what it's about. Is like you said, somebody reached out to you, say, where do I start? Those are the people that we're trying to reach. Is the people who say, hey, I want to get into books, but man, I ain't got 150 books that I'm gonna read this month. Like I've seen this page, and it's like that's no problem.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like I'll post music stuff all the time. Like, look, I listen to 8 Ball and MJG all day.
Oh, what's up?
I
You know
ain't,
about
you know what I mean?
8
I ain't this big. Hey, my man, 8 Ball and MJG won that versus too. Don't tell my wife she a UGK. But you know, I try to tell him like, look, I ain't a different nigga than you are. Trust me. I I waste time listening, watching and bullshit on YouTube just like you do.
Yeah,
I might sit up here and watch 2, 3 episodes of Love and Hip Hop,
yeah, yeah.
but then I'm gonna grab this book. You know what I mean? So I don't want you to think I'm different than you. You know what I'm saying?
So, so you kind of have like an East Coast kind of accent on you though, bro. Like, were you a early hip hop aficionado, or like how that work?
Yeah. So like my people in the military. So I'm a military kid. So we moved around everywhere, and my brother is a huge hip hop, like 100% East Coast hip hop head, right? So growing up, it was all Cannabis and Lost Boys, Method Man, Redman, Wu Tang, all of that.
That's how you.
Until I get to college, I go to college in Georgia. So I'll never forget. I get in the car, my cousin says, we don't listen to none of that yo son shit around here. So he put T right. So he put T.I. on. That's the first time I heard T.I. I said, oh, this jamming though. So then I started listening to T.I., Pastor Troy, 8 Ball and MJG,
Yeah,
CeeLo, Dungeon Family, the whole nine. Then I go visit my brother. He like, man, I don't listen to that shit. I don't want to hear none of that shit.
yeah.
So then I'm back listening to the rap band and everything. So now it's just the whole nine. Like I might listen to Lost Boys, Wu Tang, and then turn on Master P.
Man,
So now it's just, put some Mac 10 on.
yeah.
It's everything now.
Yo, son, we ain't listening to that, yo, son.
Hey, right when I got in the car, my uncle's like, welcome to Atlanta. Welcome to Atlanta, nephew.
Man,
My cousin like,
and
I'll tell you right now, we don't listen to none of that yo son shit right here. Throw that Beanie Siegel bullshit out the window.
man,
I'm like, damn.
people sleep on Atlanta, man. The cultural influence of Atlanta. I'm not even trying to gas y'all up, but it's not. People say, okay, the last 5 years has been dominated by Atlanta, bro. It's been 10 years for like Southern niggas. Like when I was in Florida, it was all Atlanta, man. Like everybody, you know what I'm saying? But I appreciate the cultural impact y'all have. And we had a comment in here that said, can we talk about how capitalism plays a part in Bookstagram?
Oh, definitely.
Wow.
So, I look into a lot of stuff. Like if you do a research on library placement in neighborhoods, right? City planners always know the libraries bring economic stability and it brings a lot of foot traffic. So they put a library in the white part of town all the time
Wow.
that we can't get to. So then what happens is we can't get to the library. We can get to anywhere else, but we can't, we can't walk to the library. Then they hit us with these late fees, right? So now we can't go to the library because my mom can't afford this $65 late fee because all I was trying to do was finish this book.
Mm-mm.
And then the car broke down, or then this happened, then that happened. I couldn't get it back in time. So now I owe $65. So I can't go back in there because, we got pride, right? I ain't trying to go on this library and I owe them money and I can't check nothing out. So now I'm not going there no more.
Yeah.
So now the amount of available books to me is cut drastically. You know what I mean? Now I got to depend on the school book fairs, which are high priced. They double those prices up in those book fairs. So now I'm priced out of literature.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Wow.
My little $5 ain't doing nothing in this Scholastic book fair.
Priced out of literature. Damn, that's a book title right now.
I'm priced out. So one thing we try to do is like free public libraries, where like my wife's she's painting one now, to where we can just put a book stand in the neighborhood where we at, and just say, look, these are free. Take one, leave one. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And now I put James Baldwin, Malcolm X books in these boxes. Now this 12-year-old, he can just go and grab a book. He can grab a Toni Morrison book, and he don't have to bring it back at a certain time. So he can sit with it. Mm-hmm. He can learn from it, and then he can tell his homeboy, hey, man, I just finished this book. Hey, here, read this. And he ain't got to worry about buying it. He ain't got to worry about bringing it back. Here, read this. So now it goes around the neighborhood. Now the whole neighborhood they're reading. You know what I mean? And we know the statistics behind people who read, their communication ability, the lack of violence in well-read areas. Mm. It's all interconnected.
All of them.
You know what I mean? Because 75% of kids in juvenile can't read past the 3rd grade level.
Yeah, that's how it is out here. I mean, in Compton, a lot of these kids don't have the reading level is extremely low, and it's all systematic at that point. If you have a whole group of kids that can't do this, it has to be deliberate at some point. You know what I'm saying? So
exactly.
It's and I think obviously Bookstagram white dominated, and it could also be off-putting too, as far as when a black person comes and joins Bookstagram, and all of a sudden it's just a bunch of corny ass white folk posting shit, and it's like these niggas don't look like me. I don't want to hear these folk. They trying to read Where the Crawdads Sing or some shit like that, and it's like like never mind, I ain't gonna read. So it's like reading is even the of reading. And I feel like the culture of academia as well is not inviting to black folk. Especially not black folk who are, who have access to certain things. So I feel like that's where also, even though Instagram can sometimes be kind of like corny, but it's important that we on here too. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because like you said, if it's not inviting, a kid's not gonna jump to it. I mean, that's just natural. You know what I mean? You have to make people feel comfortable to come back to you.
Exactly.
So they make a lot of this stuff intentional, where they only post these, like I make a couple posts where, they have these white books with this cute ass coffee mug next to it and all the light and shit, and all that looks professional, right? So then you think, well, that's what it's supposed to be, but I don't like that book though.
Yeah.
So I'm not coming back to this page. I'm not looking into this book. Fuck Bookstagram, back outside. You know what I mean?
Exactly. So
we gotta make it to where they want to come back.
Exactly. So what's the next year or so look like for your book club, man? What you got going on, or what's your plans? What's in your heart?
The next year I really want to focus on the free public libraries. I really want to get a couple of those into the ground. Also, one thing I took from you is how you have like discussions based around books. You know what I mean? Where I want people just to be able to sit down and talk about, we read this James Baldwin book, how it affected us, especially with black men, to where we can just sit down and speak about it and put it out on either YouTube or Instagram, so where it can just inspire other people. You know what I mean? Because like I jumped in on your live the other week, and I was amazed. I was like, damn, all these people from all these different walks of life are just talking about how this book affected them different.
For
You know what I mean?
real.
How they read this book and they read this page hit him, this person, this page hit him, this page hit this woman differently, and how that inspired me. I was like, shit, we gotta have some kind of conversation around these books
Exactly.
beyond just this was a good book. I like this one. This one was a good one. We got to have an in-depth conversation about it, especially James Baldwin, Toni Morrison book.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's like at the end of the day, the goal is education. Like you look at the Black Panthers, and like there was like teaching. You know what I'm saying? Like you got to teach folk. And I enjoy how once you once I first started Bookstagram, like it was a certain amount of interaction. But once we started reading together, the interaction went higher. You really realize people are really thirsty for that community and thirsty for that knowledge. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like if anything, that's the most important thing that I do is just the talking about the books, you know what I'm saying, and discussing it. So it's highly important, man. So I saw what you was reading. Uh you got no and you say you got no fiction books in there. You ain't gonna join in with us, bro? You ain't gonna do another country? You probably already read this, huh?
Hey, you know what's funny? When I was grabbing my books, and I see y'all comment, I'm not taking a shot at, at books with the coffee mug. I tried to do one. I just don't drink coffee. I'm not taking a shot at y'all. I promise. Um, but when I was getting my books together just to put on my desk here, I was looking for my another country book. I got it in the other room.
Okay.
Once I finish the book I'm reading now, I'm definitely thinking about going ahead and jumping on that. I had read it a while ago, but I didn't really get into depth on. I might not have finished it, to be honest with you. So I want to finish this one so I can go ahead and jump in it, so I'm not too far behind y'all.
So who your favorite authors like touched you personally, like like because we all have somebody that kind of revolutionized our thinking. Mine was Toni Morrison. Like the way she writes kind of just influenced my thinking in a lot of ways because like I never saw Black thought in that way. So who's the author for you that did that?
It's a couple. So like the first author that just really reached me was Monster Cody,
Man,
because I was I was wild, right? So I wasn't willing to listen to somebody that I perceived to be a punk, right? Which was again a knock on my emotional intelligence and my ability to learn. But if I thought somebody was soft, I wasn't listening. So when my brother handed me the Monster book, I was able to read that and see, okay, this person A is not soft, but he's telling me this life is not conducive to winning, right? And I'm not telling you that because I'm scared. I'm telling you this from somebody that's done it all and is here to tell you this shit ain't nothing.
man,
You know what I mean? And then to see his transition and how intelligent he was and still able to speak to people who are from the same walk of life as him, right? Because I saw an interview where he broke down like third world wars, and he broke it all the way down to gang violence.
man.
You know what I mean? And in great detail. So you can tell he's intelligent. And he made a choice that, hey, I'm gonna speak to you in the language that we understand, so I can make sure you get what I'm saying.
Mm.
So that was the first one I really just grabbed me. And then James Baldwin, I never seen a man put words to emotions like that, right? Like describe emotions.
Yeesh.
I was like, shit. Like, I read what was the first one I read from? Bill Street. And he would explain just the simplest thing, like a disagreement. And he'd explain it to such detail you could see it.
Man.
And so that hit me. And then Toni Morrison, she's probably my favorite author. I know you said Toni Morrison. She's probably my favorite because she don't give a shit. Like she the most gangster rap author ever.
Man, she really read between the lines, man.
Yeah. And think about how G you got to be to write Son of Solomon in the '60s and to write a book about black people getting revenge against racist crimes.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And put that out there and be like, hey, this is what it is. You know what I mean? And this is what we should do. And then they tell you, we're going to ban your book and shit. I don't give a shit.
Bro, like when I read the 7 days, what is it, the days? When I read that junk, bro, I was like, this junk. First of all, this junk should be a movie. First of all, second of all,
Yeah.
it's so dope because it's not clear cut morality. It's like the way they do it. It's so questionable, but she just left it out there. Like Oh well, you know what I'm saying? Like that jump was crazy. Another one for me was Invisible Man. It helped me out a lot. Because
Yeah.
that one, we as men tend to, crave upward mobility in this white supremacist world, and a lot of times we can find ourselves competing and desiring to be seen by the white world. And Invisible Man kind of highlighted my feelings at that time. And it wasn't until I read Toni Morrison, I realized to kind of like, and black women are like this a lot. Black women do well with like Xing the white world out, where I feel like we as black men kind of try to have success within the white world. But
Right.
Toni Morrison, I remember there was the interview. Have you seen the documentary Pieces That I Am?
No.
So, bruh, in the interview Pieces That I Am, she talks about Invisible Man, and she was like, I mean, the book was cool, but like invisible to who?
Yeah.
I was like,
I saw that too.
oh, I was like, Lee, man, she's like, just that small concept, of just Xing them out completely was just revolutionary to me. So, man, yeah, she's the GOAT, man. She has a Gloria Naylor is another one. It's kind of like a Toni Morrison Jr. in a way. Like she kind of
Oh, yeah.
writes similar. So yeah, there's a lot of beautiful literature out there.
I tell you another one that another two books that changed how I thought about a lot of things. One was A Taste of Power by Lane Brown.
Okay.
So like I had read Revolutionary Suicide by Dr. Huey, and then I read A Taste of Power. And how you speak about how like morality, she talks about that a lot, where everything's not black and white. James Baldwin does it great too, where growing up we like to think of everything as black and white. Either you're right or you're wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And Elaine Brown talks about how like, nah, we all are human, right? So there's this gray area that we all live in. You know what I mean? And she talks about that a lot. And I remember reading that one, and she would do some things that some people consider wrong, but her big picture was black empowerment, right?
And
So it's like, okay, we can't judge people on one or two things. We got to look at the whole picture of it. And that really drove that home for me. And just the strength of black women is the fact that she could be the leader of the Black Panther Party and lead them to building schools, leading them to, these community outreach programs. And then she would be honest and be like, now we were doing all these good things, but then within the party that we had patriarchy, we had men abusing women, and we were trying to fix ourselves while we were trying to push the whole race forward. You know what I mean? And it humanized Black Panthers so much to me. You know what I mean? Because like Huey says, they make us to be superheroes so that you can't see yourself in us. They'll make me look crazy because I went to this courthouse with this shotgun because they don't want you to understand why I went to this courthouse with a shotgun. You know what I mean?
Niggas is different.
And she talks about that.
Niggas is different. That whole just the strength and the fortitude of mindset, bro, for them to do what they was doing is just ridiculous, man. It's ridiculous. You mentioned something about black woman, Asada, man, like she is just not regular to me at all. Like her her story, her mindset, and what like she's somebody that's like, and I have yet to read her memoir, but that one, her right there, man, is like, these people do some extraordinary things once they know they self. You know what I'm saying? So it's a crazy thing. It's a crazy thing.
I tell you another one I always recommend to people that's like a lesser known Black Panther book, but it's amazing. Is a book called Panther Baby. So like this kid, he was in the Panther 21. So he was arrested in New York with Tupac's mom.
Oh wow.
Right. And he was like 16, 17. And one thing he talks about is how when he went to the Black Panther, he just wanted to join because he wanted to fuck up shit, right? He's like, I see these niggas walking around with these shotguns and they not scared of police. I'm afraid of police, so I want to join y'all. And Tupac's mom would like read these 4 books in a week and then come back and talk to me. He was like, what the fuck? I ain't here to read no books. She was like, well, you can't join it. Like, there's no revolution without education. So if you're not going to read these books, get the fuck up out of here. You know what I mean? So then he came back and he fronted like he read them. And she asked him questions. He didn't have the answer to them. She's like, get the fuck out of here. You playing around.
Yeah.
And he came back and he read them. And that's when she let him in and he joined the Panther Party. And one thing he talked about is how before they give you a gun, they gave you 2 or 3 books. You know, Huey talks about we were handing books out. You know what I mean? Black Panther Party started as a book club. And that's what Panther Baby talks about. And he was so young. And to think about how, you know, these kids, he's 18, 19, he's facing 40 years in jail.
Sheesh.
You know what I mean? For some shit none of them did. You know, and he talks about Tupac mom. She was the only woman that was charged with the Panther 21. And they was having meetings and she stood up and was like, man, I'm about to just represent myself because some funny shit going on in here and I don't have no part of it.
Man, like,
and they found out the leader was a fucking FBI informant the whole time.
Crazy, huh? That's not, I'm reading about Asada shootout on the turnpike is crazy too, man. Like how they really tried to, bro, she escaped from prison, dog. Like what the hell is this, man? Like, like how do you escape from prison in the modern days, man? Like that junk is crazy. Like and people like to portray them as reckless, and I know they have a lot of internal battles, but for you to strategize and organize that way, this is crazy, man. It's crazy intelligence. So, and it's crazy you say that the Black Panther Party started as a book club. That's to me, that's mind blowing because it's like,
right.
It all starts with that education, you know. And I think it goes back to like what I was talking about in one of them videos. Is like first is the education, then it's the organization. Like we have to organize around our community because we are the thread that can protect our community from a lot of these things. You know what I'm saying? So, man, crazy things.
And then like you think about like the humanity part of, you know, she broke out of prison, and then you read the book, and the reason she decided to break out of prison, her child. You know what I mean? Her child was like, I can't deal with this shit no more. And she said that's when she saw her daughter crying. She's like, I can't be here another day. You know what I mean? And so that just brings that humanity part of it. It's like, damn, that really makes it real. Like, I can't be here no more. You know, a lot of them were having children because they were facing 200 years in jail. And they're like, shit, I got to have a child so that I'm not going to see the light of day no more. You know what I mean? So just seeing that humanity part of it really drove it home for me.
Man. And, you know, another thing that influenced me, obviously, was Malcolm X. And I haven't read his autobiography, but when I watched the movie, it's like, damn, nigga. Like, the nigga was so, like, he was so dedicated to what was right that he could even criticize the group he was a part of. And and you know his knowledge for education, and you know I'd be watching old footage of him. He'd just be standing in a crowd of white people just debating all of them, like battle rapping, like just knocking them all out. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, it's just crazy, man. It's crazy what, you know, our ancestors did, and we in a renaissance. In my opinion, we're in a Black renaissance right now, and I think now is the perfect time for what we're doing. And it's beautiful to see, you know, so many Black book clubs. You know, you have yourself, all these other book clubs that I'm seeing. It's like, man, it's really like a movement that I really feel can gain a whole lot of steam and really do some real damage. You know what I'm saying? Because once you get plugged in, you realize you're not the only one. And that's just really what's beautiful.
Definitely like that. And that's what gives me, you know, like the energy, you know, you see, I wake up, I look, I see, you know, Bookish Black Girl posting a spread of 5 books that I never heard of. I'm like, damn, okay, I need to get on my job. Or I see, you know, Black Covered Pages posting a stack of books. I'm like, I never heard of these, so let me go try to find them.
Oh yeah.
So it's just that energy that you pull from each other, and then we all talk to each other. You know what I mean? We all in each other comments saying, "Hey, I never read that one. Let me check that one out."
Exactly.
Or, you know, I remember when I first got on Instagram, Literary Black Girl hit me up and was like, "I never heard of that book, but have you heard of this book? Let's swap books." I was like, "Shit, I don't know who this person is." You know what I mean? I don't trust strangers like that, but the fact that they just reached out and was like, "Hey, let's trade these books," and we just traded them, and then we just kept talking about it, and that's what gives me a lot of the energy to keep going.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that community?
Exactly. I got a lot of genuine like love and reaching out, and it's always black women who really upholding Black Bookstagram. They the ones like they the pillars of that junk, and they really like they got Black Bookstagram on their back. So I've learned a lot from them just watching them, you know, and a lot of the books I've learned about come from them, and you know I'm really appreciative for the community that you know. Oh yeah, and the books we should have read, they took me under their wing too. You know, it's like it's just so nourishing. So I'm really grateful for that. So yeah, man. So what can I share with you the books that I'm reading? Is that okay?
Yes, that's exactly what I was about to ask you.
Okay, so of course, you know, we got the James Baldwin, you know, the country, of course. I was reading this book, A Regarded Self. It's actually like this woman with a PhD wrote it, Caribbean Womanhood and Ethics of Disorderly Being. It's
Okay.
been messing me up, and I like to read books about like women's experience so I can check my own male privilege. We got
That's mandatory.
we will shoot back coming up right now in the queue because these police is acting wild. We got I've been reading this one actually, Guerrilla Warfare. I don't really read non-black books no more, but this one kind of like you know caught my eye, and then I'm finna crack this one open right here, man.
France, yes sir, yes sir.
He a genius, bro. His junk is like, yo, it's harder. It's hard to. Sometimes it's hard to read, but he's crazy. He's crazy good.
I remember France was the first person I read that said, "If I rob you, it's not my fault and it's not your fault either. It's the system that's been designed with both victims in it." And I was like, "Oh shit,
Man, and that's
let me go back."
because it's kind of like you know, so many folk wanna blame black on black, you know, crime and all that. You know, it's just like it takes it takes patience and love to be like, nah, it's a community thing, and a lot of people don't have that patience. A lot of people don't have that patience nor love for their own community to see it as you know a society thing. So yeah, he's different, bro. He's different.
I'll tell you a book you reading, Stop or We Will Shoot Back. I'll tell you a book that you should read like that. It's not near me,
But it's called Negroes with Guns.
Yeah, I heard about that one.
Dude, Robert F. Williams, he cold. And you know, one thing he talks about is because he knew Martin Luther King, right? And him and Martin Luther King used to argue all the time about armed protests or non-armed protests. And in Negroes with Guns, he talks about, he's like, you probably never heard of me because I stood up against the police armed and I lived. So he's like, I lived to tell about it. You know what I mean? And then I went to Cuba and I died of natural causes. Like I didn't die in a hell of gunfire, so that would scare you. You know what I mean? Like they'll tell you about Huey who died young. They'll tell you about, they'll not willingly, but they'll let you learn about Fred Hampton. He died young.
Yeah.
You know, and so you'll read about it and you'll be afraid at the same time because you're like, they killed him when he was in his 30s. They shot his pregnant girlfriend.
Man.
But he's like, I lived. You know what I mean? He's like, and when I was walking around with my guns, nobody who I was with got touched. And he's like, I'm not telling you to go grab guns. I'm just telling you what I did, and I'm telling you that it worked.
Yeah, it's
You know what I mean?
important to see successful outcomes. It's kind of like slave revolts, right? We only know of everybody dying, and it kind of like white America lets it be known like this was a bad thing, and you know you always talk about it's unsuccessful. Anytime an African American or anybody was able to revolt, it was successful regardless of the outcome. And so
Yeah.
seeing you know seeing those stories, and you know we don't even know all the slave revolts. Like you know I'm still learning of more as we you know go along. But even the revolts of the modern era is important. And you know this police violence, in my opinion, it will only get solved a couple ways. You know what I'm saying? And us arming ourselves as unpopular as that solution is, it definitely is one of the ways. You know what I'm saying? So, um, yeah, that book. Yeah, I heard that one was serious.
That's a serious. And then another one we said, reading about, like black women to check the male ego. I do that a lot. My wife don't play that shit, so I gotta stay on point. I got 2 sons too, so I read one book that changed my life is Bell Hooks, Men Willing to Change.
Yep.
Where she talks about how patriarchy is really just white supremacy.
Exactly.
So she's like, we follow patriarchy because we're given a lot of times as men we're given a pass. When we're young, as boys will be boys.
Yeah.
So if a boy and a girl get caught doing the same thing, I'm gonna get praised. The girl gets shunned.
Yep.
So as a young child, I'm like, okay, I'm with that. I can do whatever the hell I want to do. Cool. But she talks about how that just traps you because you go all your life swearing by patriarchy and defending patriarchy until you in your midlife and you realize that following that did not make you as happy as you thought it would.
Man.
They told you, hey, you make more money, you'll be happy. You know what I mean? So then you follow that and you swear by it. You just try to make as much money. Like you said, a lot of times as black men, we fall victims to capitalism. Well, we just keep trying to make more money, make more money, make more money. Then we end up 35, 40 years old. We don't have the money we thought we would. We've pushed away people because we wanted to make as much money as we could, and now we still not happy.
Yeah.
So now we middle-aged and we just miserable.
Man.
And she talks about that, how, we have to divorce from patriarchy and realize it for what it is. It's just white male violence.
What exactly? And a lot of these black movements who don't uplift and don't make equal footing with women and the LGBTQ community, it will just end up replicating the same problem because if it's only male led, it will be a problem. You know what I'm saying? So it's very important to check that. I got a Bell Hooks, a couple of books, but I also like to just know about the experience of women because it's just like, okay, how do I contribute to that? You know what I'm saying? Like, what do I that's part of that problem? Because if you say you pro-black, but you ain't really actively seeking how to uplift black women, then you're not really that nigga. So you have to understand what they go through, not only to check yourself, but you have to see the world through the eyes of your sisters as well. You know what I'm saying? So man, it's a beautiful journey to really like dive into all this, and man, I've been typing while you've been speaking. I got a bunch of books like typed down that you've been mentioning. I'm about to crack these open.
Yeah, I mean, and like learning about it. First of all, it's very a humble experience because you'll see where you fucked up at. You know what I mean? Like reading Bell Hooks books, I make you fuck around and apologize to people from like 10 years ago. Like, damn, I'm sorry, I was tripping. You know what I mean? Like, hey, my bad about all of that. I apologize because I remember, when I was in my 20s, I would follow people who swore by, Malcolm X and Huey P. Newton, but they were so anti-LGBTQ community. But the symbolism for manhood is Huey P. Newton.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I'm with that. I'm following you. You older than me. You saying that this, you follow Huey P. Newton, but you are against this community. Not to say I was ever against that community at all. But then I start reading, and Huey P. Newton's like, why would I be against somebody because of their sexual orientation?
Yeah, people don't know he was really people don't understand. Same with Malcolm, man. Like them niggas was like Malcolm. I remember reading an excerpt from the autobiography, and he approached his wife and said, "I don't like me making all decisions, the dynamic of our marriage, the man-dominated dynamic. I want to have equal power between you and I." He's talking to Betty, and it's like people don't understand that the most successful revolutionaries were always, pro women and pro people on the outskirts. Same with Thomas Sankara out in Burkina Faso. right?
Yep.
He uplifted women all the time. Like that's his whole MO. You know what I'm saying? And one of the unfortunate things about I realized about Martin was that him and James Baldwin were actually really good friends. But then people urged him to leave him alone because being gay was a bad look for the movement. You know what I'm saying? So,
Yep.
you know, we got to do these course corrections in the next revolution. You know what I'm saying? We have to learn from the mistakes of the past. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and like you think about, he almost Martin almost fucked up the March on Washington because of that. Because people were telling him to distance himself from Bayard Rustin. And Bayard Rustin was like, look, I'm not doing this. Like, I'm not about to be some hidden agenda, no hidden person contributing to this movement.
Yep.
You were either going to say that I'm a part of this or I'm out. And eventually he wisened up and was like, okay, I get where you're coming from. Coretta was a big part of that. And Bayard Rustin was a big person who organized the entire March on Washington.
100%. 100%.
So it's, a lot of it, reading it'll make you be accountable for shit. Like it made me like, damn, I was fucking up. You know what I'm saying?
Because if you only listen to your own perspective, then it's you fall victim to your own vices, and you follow your imagination, to the abyss. But you gotta see what these women is saying and everybody is saying, because it'll make you a better person. I mean, even when you talk about like light skin privilege, you know what I'm saying, and understanding colorism for real, what it is, because niggas think colorism is a two-way street, right? And it's like, nah, bro, it's a one-way street. It only affects, our darker skinned brothers and sisters. So even that kind of stuff, you have to understand and read what it really is, because people came before you. People shared the knowledge, and it's time to get educated on it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And, and like, I had to realize as far as colorism that I played a part in. I used to always say, I'm dark skinned. That shit, I ain't doing nothing. But then if somebody comes and they say something to me, we used to have a joke, like, oh, that nigga light skinned, he can't fight. So you taking away somebody's manhood just based on color of their skin. But if they say, hey, you a dark skinned nigga, you'll bite somebody, we mad. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, okay, I understand. Colorism in all parts is just wrong.
Yeah.
It's just flat out wrong. And we all black people, because to these motherfuckers, they don't care. Like, that's what I did. I divorced from all kind of like respectability politics. Like, you got a suit on or baggy jeans, it don't matter.
They do not, especially in the South, man. Like, I've been called nigger all throughout my life. You know what I'm saying? And like when you realize, but I will say though that even though the jokes might be two ways, I feel like only our darker skinned brothers, are the ones, and sisters are the ones that get treated and feel the full effect of colorism, because it's like there are privileges that light skinned people get, but and in the South you see it the most, right? You see like light skinned women get a pass for certain things and et cetera, and then you see this dark skinned women get treated, terribly. So reading on these issues as well puts, I guess, information to the things I was seeing, because otherwise you don't know how to articulate it. You know what I'm saying? But even Toni Morrison, talks about it. Bell Hooks talks about it. Everybody talks about it.
Yeah, and I had to, like, reading just made me just realize, first of all, that all of our leaders are human, right? You got to bring them there to a human space so that you can really critically, not criticize them, but you can see the errors in some of their ways so that we don't make those errors again.
Yep.
You know what I mean? To where like a lot of that patriarchy and that was not checked in the Black Panther Party, and that's what Asada refused to join. Other women refused to join. And Kathleen Cleveland ended up being harmed because of it.
Yeah.
So it's like, we don't check that, then the next Black Panther Party is going to fall the same reason.
Exactly. So what? I mean, even Angela Davis, she didn't even join. You know what I'm saying? She macho. It's too chauvinist. You know what I'm saying? But I think people have a view of pro-blackness that is kind of like antiquated. You know what I'm saying? And I think we got to update our pro-blackness to be equal footing for everybody, you know what I'm saying? And even centering other people, you know what I'm saying? Like the Black LGBTQ community. I mean, I remember when I read a statistic about Black trans women, you know, being murdered. For me, that wasn't even hard to believe because I'm in Florida. That shit happen all the time in the South.
Yep.
So it was like, damn, now I'm understanding the things I used to see. Now I'm able to put, you know, words to it and theory to it and practice to it, you know what I'm saying? But it's very important. But I really do believe there is revolution, you know, happening now, and that, you know, it's coming up. You know, I really believe something's going to turn. As bad as it looks, I really do believe something's going to turn.
I think it is too. Like I think the beginning of the pandemic, I think we all were forced to kind of look inside. Of course, we were forced to entertain ourselves. So a lot of people just started picking those books up. So a lot of that self-criticism, that breakdown that you got to go through before you can start to really build yourself back up, that's taking place now. You know, even some people who I known for years are talking different
Man.
and looking at things differently. You know what I mean? And then so now, like you said, that organization comes in, organized. We get around these books, and we have these book, you know, conversations. And anytime a book conversation happens with Black people, it's going to expand into a revolutionary sense because it's just natural.
Man.
And then, like you said, I think it's a changing of the tide is coming. And I think that's why a lot of, you know, establishments are very nervous, as they should be, because, you know, things are just changing.
You know,
because they have to.
You said that establishments are nervous, and that's why I believe the infiltration of Black culture is at an all-time high right now. I really believe, like,
Yeah.
you know, from the white rappers like Jack Harlow to the way that Black Lives Matter movement has kind of been co-opted by these white liberals to kind of lose steam and
Yeah.
lose its fervency, and you know how white leaders can kind of dictate where Black movement goes, and then unfortunately you have Black people who, you know, kind of give white people too much access into our space, and then white people being who they are, they dilute it to a point. And I definitely see what you're saying as far as the establishment is nervous because there's so much infiltration. If you pay attention, like all the, you know, it's kind of like conflicting because we as Black folk, we want to see more shows, we want to see more people up there. But if you realize the push that is happening for all this content, in my opinion, is not always a pure motive. You know what I'm saying? There's a difference between solidarity and surveillance. You know what I'm saying? And I
Yeah.
believe that there is an infiltration of our culture happening in order to make sure we don't get too radical. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah. And you know, like you said, the infiltration to keep us from being too radical, it is so intentional. Like I sat back and when Black Lives Matter first started, you know, I kind of followed the whole movement, and I would just sit back and notice how all of a sudden these three white folks bought their way into it, and then all of a sudden these three white folks bought these four white folks, and all of a sudden, and so then it's mainstream now. You know what I mean? Now it's on Apple commercials, BLM during February. But then you look at and I'm in HR. So then I look at the breakdown of who makes decisions at Apple. It's all white people. So is it BLM or is it just you jump on this hashtag, you pump some money. Once you pump the money into it, you control it.
yeah.
So now, hey, y'all better not have no protests over here by one of our Apple stores. Better make sure of that.
Exactly how it happened.
Better make sure you don't call us out about nothing. Make sure, because we just put $1 million into y'all. Don't do it.
Yeah,
and so now it gets taken over.
Exactly. That's what the surveillance versus solidarity, right? Like it looks like solidarity, but it's really surveillance. And so when Black Lives Matter, you know, started, I'm looking at some of the ways it became. Well, when I was in Oklahoma when that jump started, so the white people around me saw it as a terrorist organization, right? But the white liberals embraced it, and I'm realizing when you say Black Lives Matter, you know, who are you talking to? You know what I'm saying? Because nigga, I already know my life matters. Yeah, this nigga knows his life. So it's like You talking to white folk, you're automatically centering, and you don't think that you are, but you are automatically are pleading with your oppressor to view your life as valuable. Well, nigga, the Panthers ain't never asked nobody if their life was valuable. And I'm, you know, like
Right.
we have to get to that point where we are the ones that hold the value in our own eyes. You know what I'm saying? But uh,
Yeah.
in California, man, the BLM aesthetic is at an all-time high, dog. It's nauseating, you know. And these folks will be in a gentrified. Look, bro. They'll be in a downtown like a thing, everything gentrified, and on the side of the building is BLM. It's just like so completely antithetical. And unfortunately, we allowed that in a way because we keep buying into this mentality that we need white people in order to gain steam on freedom. We
Mm-hmm.
allies, you know, the ally movement and ally culture is so flawed and it's so slave mastery.
Yeah.
And it's so off and it's so wrong because that's the exact opposite of what it means to be, you know, self-sufficient and to see yourself as worthy of liberty. I mean, it's different when a white man undoes your chains versus when you break your chains off. You know what I'm saying? Like it's a
Right.
feel, and all of our people need to understand that that's exactly what needs to happen. Is we are the ones that liberate. And going back to like how the historical narrative is shaped. You hear about John Brown, you know, you hear about these people. You don't really, you're not really allowed to dive into, you know, Nat Turner and all these other people and Toussaint, you know, and all these other people that really was putting white folk, hanging them from trees. You're not allowed to.
Yeah.
So then your concept of freedom is even colonized, right? You have to wait for it. And that's what I believe is happening a lot of times. You know, a lot of the things that we are pushing for, we wait for, right? We wait for the establishment to catch on, and this is not how it's supposed to be.
Like I remember I was in like ninth grade, and I swear my brother, this nigga was this nigga was a Black Panther in high school because he wanted to write a report on Nat Turner for history class. So you know he gets the book and he goes and tells his teacher about it. He comes home and he's like, my teacher won't let me write a book about Nat Turner because he was out there hanging these motherfuckers. I was like, what you talking about? But he was big, you know, he listened to Dead Press, he's wearing Malcolm X hats. So he was willing to go to full extent to be able to write this paper on Nat Turner. Like he was willing to, he's like, if I can't write on Nat Turner, I ain't writing. Fuck that. And I remember just looking at him like, damn, this nigga for real. Cause like this is my brother, you know. He's under the house with my mom. My mom was like, I'm with it, I don't care. You know what I mean? So seeing that and seeing him telling me about, hey, you know, check this dude out right here. He was going house to house fucking people up. And my teacher's not telling me none of this. My history teacher's not telling me none of that. You know what I mean? But he's like, look at this. Hey, and check this out right here. You know, Christopher Columbus didn't discover shit. But then I go to school and the teacher like, Christopher Columbus discovered America. I'm like, but hold on. I just read a book that said he didn't.
Man.
And I had to go, like, they called my mom. And she came and she was like, well, can you tell me where he lied? Can you show me a history book that says Columbus discovered America? And they couldn't. And one thing I took from that, she was like, they'll tell you whatever they want to tell you. You got to really look into it. You know what I mean? You got to do the research yourself. That's your responsibility.
Have you ever, you know, as a Black man felt, how much do you feel like you've had to unlearn as a Black man and being taught the wrong thing, even whether historically or even about yourself? How much would you say you felt like you had to unlearn, and how's that process been for you?
I had to unlearn it all, really. Like, and it's been real humbling, you know, and it's still going on, right? Because my definition of manhood was so old and no longer prevalent, you know, and I had to check myself that I was passing it on to my children. You know what I mean? And that's something I had to learn like last year is, you know, not having emotional intelligence and just bottling up emotions and not speaking and distancing myself from my family to try to quote unquote think my way through my problems. And I had to realize, like, my wife had to bring it to my face and was like, look, nigga, you know, you fucking up, you know, because now when your son gets mad, he walks away. He don't talk about why he mad. He walk off. That's what you do. And I'm like, well, I do that because she's like, nah, that's an excuse. You know, you a grown man. Speak your emotions, and so we can deal with it. You don't gotta run off and, you know, get high, get drunk, and then come back the next day and whatever. That's not the way to do it.
Exactly.
So then I had to go start reading bell hooks. I'm reading, you know, I'm reading these books about why I thought that was manhood. And that was a lot of it was, you know, my parents, like my uncles and my older cousins taught me that stuff. But I had to understand that they were pushing something that's antiquated too, that is not prevalent now. You know, so I have long discussions with my children. Like, are you upset? Okay, let's talk about why you upset.
Yeah.
You know, I had to learn. I'm still learning that.
Yeah. And it's not only it's not even prevalent. It's like, it's harmful to us. You know what I'm saying? And one could argue that it's a white supremacist tool to keep us from being effective, you know, because we implode and we in jail, or we implode and then we here, there, or even worse, we destroy those who we love, you know what I'm saying? And we have a generational cycle of brokenness in between our family. You know what I'm saying? So it's extremely important. I've had to unlearn stuff. I'm still doing that too. It's just like stuff that you was taught, especially because I grew up hella Christian. You know what I'm saying? So it's like seeing how Christianity, and I'm still, you know, in tune with my Lord. It's just like understanding the part that was used as menticide to you know, really cut down black folk and really make us assimilate. You know what I'm saying? And how much just menticide it was. You know what I'm saying? It's a constant learning process.
So tell me, like, you know, we're both hip hop babies. So tell me about like dealing with kind of the I call it kind of confusion or dichotomy of, you know, pushing forward with pro-black messaging while also listening to the 8 Ball and MJGs and listening to the, you know, Jeezys. I'm a huge Jeezy fan, and listening to this music. And how do you kind of balance those two?
Well, it's kind of what you said back to Fanon, right? He was like, it's the society that causes these things. So the way I get by it is I see these brothers as, like myself, victims of our culture and our circumstance. And it's not until I feel like they're directly and intentionally perpetuating these kind of like beliefs, then I'll be like, okay, yeah, you might not be that nigga for me. But you know, as far as like understanding, yeah, I mean, I ain't gonna lie, I talk that way at some point. I was maybe, you know, homophobic at a point. You know, it's reality. You know, we grow up in this society, so I see them as that. And it's not until they do something that I feel like is continuing the cycle, that's when I'll be like, okay. But a lot of niggas is unlearning things too, and some of them are growing, you know. But when I was growing up, like, you know what I'm saying, 8 Ball, MJG, early 2000s, that hip hop was not even nowhere close to like conscious, you know what I'm saying? It was just ignorant.
Right. Yeah.
Just, like, my mother never let me listen to rap at that point. I would listen to like niggas like Lecrae and them, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, positive rappers, and that's why that's my entry into hip hop, and then the underground like MF Doom and all that, you know, kind of like made it intellectual for me. And then I came back around to like the Nuck If You Buck. I mean, Nuck If You Buck is my favorite song of all time. Like that song gives me life. You know what I'm saying? So I guess I just see it as like it's we're a product of our culture, and until someone teaches us better, we don't know better. So I don't really fault them. But how about yourself? Like, how do you deal with that cognitive dissonance?
I'm in the same boat. You know, I look at it as for the totality of, you know, I look at it from, and Lecrae is good. I got Lecrae's all. I see some Lecrae fans popping up. He good. He good buddy around here. He good. But like I look at it like you do. I listen to Jeezy a lot. I was around when he first kind of took off in Atlanta. And one thing I always say is Jeezy always made it to a point where he spoke about organizing black people, right? First time I saw Jeezy, he had 100 niggas on the stage with him.
Yeah.
And they had all different colors on. And he was like, look, we're going to take this whole shit over.
Man.
And it was we. And hey, we going to do this and we going to do that. And so I gravitated towards that. But at the same time, it's dealing with the black people as a whole, right? I can't only listen to Malcolm X unless if I'm not willing to understand when he was red, right?
Man.
So I gotta be able to accept Gucci Man when he was Gucci, and then seeing him learn more and become who he is now, being Radford Davis. I gotta see the whole totality because I want somebody to see the totality in me.
Exactly.
Right. So that's one thing I look at, and also I look at it as a tool, like the same way with the language, right? I go to work, I don't say nigga at work, but when I'm talking to people who I'm comfortable with and people younger than me, if I'm trying to teach them, I'm not trying to have the word nigga or the music be this big barrier, right? Where I'm saying, look, the music y'all listen to sucks. Because if I say that, I can't then want you to listen to me. I can't demand you listen to me because I just disrespect you.
Exactly.
I'm like, look, that shit trash. But let me teach you something.
Yeah.
If somebody tell me, hey, the shit you listen to is trash, that's the end of our conversation.
Exactly.
Because this is a part of my culture.
Exactly.
So, like, a lot of times I talk to people who are a little older than me, and they talk about like drill music, right? They're like, all that shit is bullshit. That's why these niggas is crazy and this, that, and the third. I'm like, come on now. We was in the gangster rap era.
Yeah, man. That's right. Gangster rap era more organized and articulate, but it's the same, niggatry, you know what I'm saying?
It was pure niggatry. And so we got to understand that it's the system. These kids ain't killing each other because of music. Mm-mm. It's because they're put in an environment that where they think the only way out is these two ways: crime and being a rapper. And so they base being a rapper on the crime.
Yep.
So I can't fault a 16-year-old that ain't ate in 2 days that go out and do something or think that's the only way they're going to be able to eat. I got to fault the system that makes them believe that and that makes them, really, really subscribe to that life.
Exactly.
Yes, it was. And the gangster rap era was peak niggatry. I know every Ice Cube song front to back, and I was growing up defending this stuff. Like my mom bought my brother the Wu-Tang album and walked in and he was listening to it. She's like, take that shit out, give it to him, I'm throwing it away. And my brother freestyled a whole argument on why he should be able to listen to this music, right? Like an intellectual argument. He's like, these are poets describing their current environment. This is how these are newscasters.
Man.
I mean, he broke it all the way down. He was about to start crying because we weren't about to lose that Wu-Tang tape.
He said, hell no.
We couldn't lose the Wu-Tang. So he's breaking it down. He's like, these are all newscasters, Mom. They're telling you how their life goes. We don't live in Staten Island. They do. They're telling you how people can get out of their environment. So if you against that, then you against black people.
Oh no. He hit her with.
And my mom was like, all right, keep it. And walked out.
I can see that argument being made for like, Wu-Tang, because some niggas is poets. But when I was growing up, man, it was like Mike Jones and you know what I'm saying? Like it wasn't nothing in the music, bro. It was nothing to hold on to. It was nothing to hold on to.
Yeah.
But it sounded good and it was us, you know what I'm saying? It was our culture and I felt the South in it. The Soldier Boys, the Crime Mobs, the Rich Boys, the Paul Walls, Slim Thug, like, and it's who he was, man. And so I feel like that's my generation, so it's kind of like that was so anti, like, there's some white people that can get with the Wu-Tangs, that can get with the KRS-Ones because there is a respectability about it, right? It's like,
yeah,
articulate, right? It has intellectual properties all throughout it, but the breakdown of that to just the feeling of Southern music, where it's just a feeling, You know, like this bangers music or the trunk rattling stuff, or the crunk or you know, throwing bows music. It was like there was no way to be respectable with it. So it made you, it did this huge divide in culture where if you listen to that, you was no good. You know what I'm saying? And if you didn't, you was okay. And where I grew up in Florida, you know, it was either you was a nigga, like just dirty, or you was white. You know what I'm saying? Like the way that's where I guess I wouldn't, I didn't want to jump over the fence and abide by the respectability. I wanted to keep the niggatry, you know what I'm saying? Not clean it up, not pull my pants up. I wanted to stay this, but I just wanted to show myself in totality. So I guess that's the kind of thing that, you know, stuck with me even till now. It's just like, cause Southern like Freaknik era, nigga, like early BT, bro, like it was just nothing but niggatry, bro.
It was pure.
It was irredeemable.
It was pure niggatry. And the thing about it, they didn't apologize for any of it, right? It was like, this is what we do, and we don't really give a shit if y'all like it or not. We still gonna do it. And it's that rebel sense that I always gravitate to, like with the crunk music.
Yeah.
It's like, nigga, we coming in here and fucking shit up.
Man, that's it. There's no other point. It was violent and it was like at the same time, bro.
we're gonna fuck this whole club up, and whatever you want to do about it, we'll beat your security ass too. And I remember when like I was in Atlanta at the time, and I remember they had like an interview with Lil Jon. He was on the radio, and he was talking about how a lot of the drums would be patterns that as black people we relate to. He's like, you know, drums since the beginning of time has been something that invokes a spirit in us.
Man.
You know, and Lil Jon broke it all the way down to like, man, you know, when Nat Turner was going house to house, they were beating drums to wake people up. And he's like, so these drums, these 808s is something that we relate to. He's like, that's why when you hear, boom, you're going to get up. You're going to turn around. He's like, all my songs start with boom, boom. And that's because that's going to bring out that nigga in you. You know what I mean?
It's so true.
And I love it. Like, I listen to it to this day.
It's so true because and each black music has a different way I see it. I don't know if you've ever seen like the prime cuts and like the pig. You know how they have different sections on a pig. You know,
yeah,
that's how I see black music. Like it accesses different parts of us, right? So the early 2000s rap was just angry, man. It was free of any kind of respectability. 90s rap was like our pain in such an articulate and poetic manner, right? You got the R&B, which is black love and the desire to be in love and the desire to stay in that zone. You know, blues obviously was us being depressed. Funk was us dancing and shouting and kind of shaking them shackles off. You know what I'm saying? And I would say funk, historically, obviously, is the biggest predecessor to hip hop because it's kind of like the same thing, right? It's like we don't care how you see us anymore. We gonna get sweaty. We gonna get, you know what I'm saying? And even the music nowadays, when it comes to like maybe like the auto tune rap, it's like a lot of niggas are not just trying to rap no more. They're trying to sing because they got stuff in their heart. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know, it's all a mosaic, in my opinion.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Like, and I see somebody saying neo soul too. Exactly. Like, one thing neo soul did for me is it broke apart the kind of big picture version of love, right? How we think love is, right? Neo soul broke it to a human part. Like, there's gonna be some shit that happens in a loving relationship. Some trials and tribulations are gonna happen, and the commercialized version of love is just you two meet, big hearts fly around your head when you meet, and then you walk off to a happily ever after, you know. But neo soul, it was like, you know, somebody say, hey,
struggle,
this happened, you know, we ended up falling off, but we're trying to get back to where we were. And you know, this, you know, somebody stepped out on this and that and the third. Like you said, it's our black love reality, which helped me to be more of a mature person in a relationship. It's like, okay, it's not all fucking Hallmark commercials and shit like that. You know, and neo soul for me taught me that.
Yeah, because it's like when you look at what Black Love is trying to do, is trying to reconnect things that's been broken on the auction block, right? So it's like
Mm-hmm.
all these generational things that we dealing with, you know, that we didn't even really do, but it's pain, is what our father taught us, our grandfather. It's like it's all these generational things that we have to work out loving each other. And the neo soul has that, because neo soul is very Afro conscious, right? Very Afrocentric. You know,
Yep.
it's not like R&B, where R&B is made by Black folk, but it's a little bit more, you know, decentralized in as far as the direction of the speaking. But neo soul is straight Negroes. You know what I'm saying? So it kind of like how you factor in our pain while you're trying to go through love. It's very important.
Yeah, and it's a learning process. You know, I remember, like you said, a lot of it's in our DNA. I remember a cousin of mine. I made a joke about this. I only had one child at this time, and somebody said, "How's Tyree doing?" I was, "Oh, he good. You know, just bad as hell, right?" And so we all laughed, you know. And then somebody else made a joke about spankings, and everybody laughs, right? And I got a cousin-in-law. He's like a real deep thinker. So an hour after we had that conversation, we sit down, and he's like, "So, how was your son back?" I was like, he's not really." He's like, "Well, why'd you say he was?" And then and he's like, "Well, why'd you laugh when they talked about spanking? Because I know you don't believe in that." I'm like, "Well, it was funny, da da da." And he's like, "Okay, well, that's because in slave times, we would talk bad about our children to keep them from getting sold. We would say, you know, hey, Junior's not that smart. She can't, he ain't strong, so you don't want him. She's not smart, so you don't want to take her." He's like, "That was a survival tactic. But that's in our DNA, so you do that naturally. You don't even think about it."
Oof.
He's like, "So when you say, oh, you know, he's just bad as hell, ha ha ha," he's like, subconsciously, you're just trying to protect him. I'm not saying you're a bad parent, but he's like, why not say, because at the time, my son, like now, he's a straight A student. At the time, he was then too. And he's like, why don't you say he's a straight A student? I was like, damn, I didn't think of it like that.
It's true.
He's like, it's true. We got to speak life to it, but we're in a survival mode, like you say. You in a survival mode, and that back then, that was a survival tactic.
Exactly.
Hey, I'm gonna talk bad about my child so that master doesn't take him himself.
Ain't that crazy?
So I'm gonna tell you, hey,
Ain't that crazy?
he's not. And it's buck wild that can be still in our DNA.
And the thing is, I was realizing, you know, there's certain things, you know, habits that we have, obviously, like you just mentioned, that are passed down, but we don't even know where they come from sometimes. You know, you might not like strawberries because, you know, your great grandfather, you know, remembered a lynching that day, and strawberries was around. Yeah, you don't know. And that's the crazy thing about getting in touch with your ancestors, getting in touch with, you know, your history, because it's like, man, it goes so deep, man. It goes so deep. That's crazy.
Yeah, like it'll change how you think about anything. Like you said, you'll say, "Well, I don't like strawberries," and then you'll start reading, and you're like, "Well, why don't I like strawberries?"
Man.
My mom would let me eat strawberries. Why wouldn't she let me? And then it goes back, 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 back. And you like, damn,
Man.
maybe I do like fucking strawberries. You know what I mean? And something as small as that can be so revolutionary because that can kickstart you to examine everything about why you think this way, why do you act this way, and you start to realize that a lot of that comes from pain. And what I had to learn when I read, you know, about various, you know, slave revolts and various different tactics in slavery, is that slavery wasn't that long ago. You know, so when you think of it generationally, it's not that long ago. So a lot of those traditions are still in us every day.
Man.
You know what I mean? I got, you know, you look at what? Grandparent, great grandparent, great great, 4 generations, you know, back as a slave.
Man.
You know what I mean? And a lot of times in the South, you look at sharecropping, we got uncles that were sharecroppers.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
It's not that far away. People don't understand.
It's not that far away. So a lot of those tactics are still within our DNA. You look at our ancestors, they dealt with seeing somebody, a pregnant woman, strung up, a baby cut out of their stomach, and the baby's head stepped on. That changes your DNA for at least 3 generations.
and it, man, and the trauma, and the, you know, the psychological things as well, the emotional things, you know, learning how to not speak about pain. I mean, what therapists did we have back then? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So it's crazy how I think as an African American, you're always kind of taught that you kind of exist in this vacuum, right? You have no culture, you have no history, you know, you have no ancestors. And I think what I appreciate about like Toni Morrison is that she always gave like a name to like our history. Like she put a myth, you know what I'm saying? Or like, and Song of Solomon was a book that did that for me. It's like how he found his people in like the South, and how there was a flying African, you know, in
Right.
the city, and then like it explained so much about him. Like that really helped me understand like how we really are just descendants, man, and we have people behind us that have gone through this before. So you know, to learn and the sad thing, our history is destroyed in a way, but it's also not. Like there are records, and there is ways to discover it, man. So it just takes diligence.
Yeah, it takes a lot of that diligence and that discipline, you know, to understand. And that's why like I read a lot of like theological books about history before slavery, because a lot of times when I was growing up, I remember that's when they first started those commercials where they would have like an African child, you know, with flies all around his or her head, and you say you can sponsor this child for like a quarter a day, right? And we would see these commercials every day, and we were so young we didn't understand, we were being indoctrinated to be grateful for slavery,
Man,
because we're like, damn, well, at least I'm not over there.
man,
But saying that says I'm grateful for my ancestors being kidnapped and brutalized over here.
man.
You know what I mean? So I try to read books and instill into my children like our history don't start with slavery.
Not at all.
And once you understand that, you can have more expectations of yourself.
Man,
And if I can tell you about these black inventors and these black geniuses, then you can expect that of yourself better.
exactly. And it's crazy how you said indoctrinated, because there's so much indoctrination. And you know, growing up, when I was me and my sister, we grew up in Florida around a bunch of white folk. But they will always say that, you know, like, oh, without us, you would have been in huts and this and that. And it's like how people can really believe that is beyond me. Even though Africa has been documented as the haven of civilization many times. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and just undoing the self-image that comes with living in this white society, man. It's like, damn, it's crazy. Even the amount of police shows we have, right? Like, you ever sit back and wonder why everything is a cop or a lawyer or everything? Like, it's like they're teaching you at a young level to see these people as authority. And also, like, me and my family used to watch Law and Order and all that. It's like when one of the cops would fly off the handle because his emotions just of what was happening, you know, got so big, we were taught to empathize with that. So now when we see that in real life, we're taught to empathize. And I see black folk saying, oh well, da da da. And it's like, man,
Yep.
indoctrinated to see that we've been indoctrinated to believe. And it's crazy when you really look at media. We will never get a hold on media as black folk because it's so white supremacist, and that's why literature is the true radical, you know, education. You know what I mean? Because media, from the cops to the white supremacy to the light skinned women. I mean, every black show having a light skinned mom. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
femininity is only light skinned, right? You get indoctrinated so many times. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah, like man, hey, when you mention that cop shows, like every time they fly off the hand, like okay, take SVU, right? I used to be a huge Law and Order SVU fan. So whenever Stabler flies off the handle,
exactly,
chokes somebody,
exactly,
puts his hands on somebody, they end up being guilty,
yeah,
right? So he just had a feeling. He just something told him, some sixth sense told him to beat the hell out of this dude. And then 30 minutes later, that's the one that did it,
yeah,
right? So then you look at the news, and then you look at Mike Brown, and You see people automatically make that connection. Well, he must have done something.
Exactly.
Shit, that kind of just ain't gonna fly off the handle like that unless he did something.
Exactly.
It's because we sit up here, we watch these cop shows all day, and they tell you, hey, anytime this cop flies crazy, that person ends up doing it, and you're like, well, okay, I see why he flew crazy then. It's like, nah, that's not the case
cops
at all.
And they are such. I mean, I'm a big anti-cop person all the way through and through. Like, I have no redemption for them at all. And you see it being so forced on us. And a lot of what they have is intimidation, so much so that they could be killing somebody right in front of you, and the most that you do is record it. You know, and that would never happen with nobody else. You know what I'm saying? You would never let blood would never let a Crip do that. A Crip would never let blood do that. You know, we would never let that happen anywhere. But the intimidation of them has been so indoctrinated, and that's why I admire people like Asada, because it's like her mind was so indomitable that, you know, if you come against me, you getting shot regardless of your profession. I do not care.
Yeah.
I don't care, man. It's a rap. You come around me with that, and that's something that is erasing those barriers where we allow abuse to be enacted by people who are part of the white supremacist model, right? Because he has a little star on his chest with a name plate, he's allowed to do that. And what does it take to to decolonize our mind to where we see them as just a person in a costume at this point?
Yeah. And a lot of it is understanding that we've been indoctrinated. You know what I mean? It's getting that part. Understand that we are a victim, because a lot of times as men, we never want to look at ourselves as a victim.
Yeah.
Right? We like, I ain't victim shit. But then you got to understand, just by being in, it's not even just America, but particularly being in America, in this society, you are a victim because you are indoctrinated from birth. You're given these false images of yourself from birth that change the way that you think naturally. Like, you can fight against it, but you have to have the education to know that you need to fight against it.
Yep.
You know what I mean? If you don't know that this shit fucked up, you think it makes sense.
Man.
You like, everybody around me follow it, so it must make sense. But then you do more research, and you start to understand, like, nah, they all follow it because we all fucked up.
Man, and that's why I feel like books come in, because books are so, depending on the author, of course, not tied to any sort of belief. They can be pure vessels, right? As opposed to movies and shit. It's like, you know, my sister's in the TV and movie business, so it's like it starts at one level, it goes through these people, goes through this person, then these white folk gotta approve it, then the studio gotta approve it, and it changes dogma every step, right? It changes dogma. Like, by the time it gets to us, it's this watered down or riddled with propaganda, piece of art. So it's like, how can we subvert this system that teaches us the wrong thing, right? You know, my students in BSU ain't never heard of Langston Hughes before, so it's like they've been taught to see themselves through music, you know what I'm saying, or whatever media, whatever media device is out there. And it's like, once you realize that those are so flawed, man, you have to start to take your self-image in your own hands. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And a lot of it, like you said, is propaganda. I remember, like, in like early 90s, when the movies started to really push a certain propaganda, where the only time you would hear rap music in a movie was some crimes happening.
Exactly.
And I remember my mom calling it out one time, and I was like, she just tripping. She trying to be against rap music. But then you start to look, and the only time you see a collection of black people is in that jail scene.
Mm-hmm.
Or you see, you hear rap music, here come a gang fight, here come a shooting, a stabbing.
Exactly.
So then people start to equate to saying, okay, well, that's where I should be then. I'm even if it's not a dominant thought in your mind, you say, okay, well, I'm black, so I must supposed to be this kind of way, because the media tells me that this is what real black people are.
Exactly. And even further, say it on the flip side, when you say, okay, I want to be an upstanding citizen, I have to leave my culture in the dust because my culture is wrong. Rap,
Yep.
sagging your pants, wrong. Gold teeth, wrong. You know, all this, and you're taught to kill yourself in order to flourish in white man society, and you end up still not flourishing anyway because you're still a nigga to these folk. You know what I'm saying?
You're still a nigga, and you end up losing a lot of who you are.
Man.
Like I remember when I first started getting into like corporate America and all this bullshit. I'm coming to work. I'm turning I turn Jeezy down 10 minutes before I pull up to the office.
Yeah.
Then I'm going, I think I'm far enough away, so I turn it back up. If I see one of my coworkers out and about, oh shit, here come now. I gotta put this fucking, hey, how you doing? And I'm losing every time I do that. I'm losing. You know what I mean?
Man.
And all props to my kid. Like my kid's a G. He called me out on it. You know, he's like, why you talk different when he coming around? I was like, oh shit. So I had to realize, because like I remember seeing my dad change how he talked when coworkers came around.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd be like, that must be saying the way he talks around us is wrong.
Man.
So then when he called me out about it, I'm like, you know what? You're right. Fuck that. So like now I can't do it because that kills me every time. If I do that, that kills a little part of me every time. And I'm not willing to sacrifice myself, like you said, to just still be a nigga in your eyes anyway.
Yeah, I mean, that's where Gold Mouth started, actually, is where I made a decision to stop code switching. I made a decision, like, I stopped. You know what I'm saying? Like, I do not care. I'm wearing what I wear to the house. I'm wearing it to work. If I got to say,
right.
I'm a say finna. I don't care. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
Made that decision, and just the amount of liberation I felt. And liberation doesn't come without blowback, because you get blowback still. But true to yourself has such a liberating feel. It's just like, man. So, you know, it's like the death of code switching, the death of respectability, you know, is extremely important.
It's so important. I remember like when I first started, I had the Black Book Club, and I'm here in my office, and we were having a meeting at work, and you know, you see behind me is books and there's some artwork behind me. And so my manager was like, Tyree, I see those books behind you. What kind of books you read? And so in that moment, I had like a little panic, right? I'm like, oh shit. Because all I got behind me is some shit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Book
So I started grabbing books. Right. I'm like, and I remember I had a book called Watch Out, Honky, Black People Coming For You.
Yeah, yeah.
So I grabbed Malcolm X, I grabbed Franz Fanon, and I grabbed something like, these are the books I got. And because that was a decision, I was like, I can't keep doing this bullshit code switching thing. I'm like, this is what I got. He's like, oh, okay, great. But I didn't care what his response was. It was, I'm not going to sit up here and grab the most docile book I can and say, oh, this is a John Grisham book, or this is, you know, Lord of the Rings. No disrespect to those books, but I'm like, that's betraying me if I do that.
Man.
Yes, that is a wild book title, and that's the reason I bought it. It's called Watch Out Honky, matter of fact. It's Watch Out Honky, Black People Come For You.
I love that.
That's the only reason I bought it, is because of the title. Because I'm like, I can't keep, you know, sacrificing myself and keep selling myself short for people who still gonna think me as a nigga.
Man.
You know what I mean? I remember being in office when Mike Brown happened and hearing people talk about, man, I believe the cop when he said he shot Mike Brown in the stomach and he kept running at him. And I'm like
he's a monster, man. Like he's some type of Hulk. That's so disgusting, man. It's so disgusting.
Yeah. I was like, I remember I asked, I was like, do you really believe that? He's like, yeah, that's what the cops said. I said, okay, so you believe if I get shot in my stomach right now, I'm gonna keep running that.
Man. I was in Oklahoma when Terrence Crutcher got shot. He got shot a couple miles north of me. And the cop that shot actually went to the gym that I went to at that time. And it's like they were having a discussion, you know, and they was like, I know her. She's not a bad person. Da 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 da. It was just like, and you see how this mindset starts small and then just spirals into a community belief. and then we're drowned under the weight of these white thoughts, man. It's ridiculous, you know. But I think for me, my mother is Haitian, so you know we come from a bloodline of people who was hanging white folk from trees. You know what I'm saying? And I've
Right.
said things on purpose to get people upset. I've always been that kind of contrarian. I've always made sure that if a white person look at the book that I got, I made sure I got the most provocative title. You know, I made sure that I made sure when I'm stopping at a stoplight, you know, my music is rambunctious. You know, because in Florida, I know it's like this in Georgia too, but in Florida, the way we listen to music is like the most uncomfortable we can make white people around us is the success of the music, right? Like niggas is on donks and like the trunk is rattling and we skating through this and skating through this park and you know making sure that our presence is known like in such a rebellious way. You know what I'm saying? I think that's kind of like the DNA that I kept with me is just that rebellion. You know what I'm saying? It's because it's very important. It's very important to kind of like to rebelliously push yourself down folks' throat. You know, it's very important.
Yeah, because like our society is so skewed that we have to be rebellious to be human.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? To be looked at as human, we have to be as rebellious as possible. Like we have to yell at you that we're human for you to even think it. Because like you said, when that white thought is so heavy, and the conclusion that they can draw from it,
Man.
you know what I mean? They can just draw. Okay, well, she wasn't that type of person. Well, then he deserved to die. Then. And they'll make that drive so quick. You're like, how the fuck we get here?
Man.
So we have to be willing to interrupt that.
Exactly, and then you see how it goes from there to like, and then it makes its way into the movies, into the literature, and then that's the dominating thought, and then it turns around on these black kids where they ingest it, and the cycle continues, and then that black kid becomes somebody that won't empathize with somebody shot by the police, and then it just continues, man. So we really doing the Lord's work, I believe, man. Like you know, like as small.
I believe so.
It's important.
I believe so. Like I sent your page to my brother. My brother is never on Instagram. My brother's the one that reads. Like he's pissed off that all the albums are on streaming now.
Yeah.
Because he's the one that cracks the book open. He reads whoever produced everything. He reads the thank yous, everything. So he's not really on Instagram. But I'm like, hey, look, check this page out. This is a page. This is exactly why the Black Book Club is here. Because this is a page that speaks to us. And it speaks directly to us without diluting any other language. You know what I mean? It's so important because it's like, look, real niggas is smart. Simple as that. And I'm going to tell you I'm smart, and I'm not going to sacrifice the way I talk to show you that I'm smart. I refuse to do it.
Exactly.
And that's why I appreciate your page so much, because like I send it to anybody. I annoy people because I'll send it, and I'm like, you see this? You see this? You see how he describes his book club, right? This is a direct strike against society. And this is exactly what we need. I'm not willing to bow down to you for you to tell me I'm smart. Nigga, I know I'm smart.
Man.
And you're gonna respect it. You know what I mean? It's like I'm not willing to talk like you talk for you to say I'm smart. I'm not gonna do none of that shit. All that's tap dancing, which takes me away from my main goal.
Man.
I'm not here to tap dance for you.
Man. I mean, I'm so kind of floored at how like people been saying like the page blesses them, bro, because it blesses me. Because sometimes I wake up and I have a post in mind, and you know it's been such a long journey to like decolonize myself and to love myself, bro. And I know you can attest to that. I know everybody in the chats can attest to that. It's such a long, arduous, and painful journey to realize how things was robbed of you because you was black, and how certain peace was robbed from you, and how certain self-love was robbed from you, right? And how certain, just everything that's lit. I remember when Black Panther came out, man, like, damn, I was like, I never seen like niggas on screen like this. Like, this is crazy. Like, you know what I'm saying? It be the small things, you know. So I'm so grateful, you know, that people is getting blessed by the work, man, because it's so important, bro. It's like, we deserve the world, you know what I'm saying? Like as much as we've been through and as much as we go through still, you know, and how much menticide has been done to us, man. We really deserve everything. You know, black people deserve the world, man. We will inherit the world, in my opinion. I really believe that. You know, I really do believe we are blessed, and I believe we have a calling on our lives, whatever deity you believe in. So, you know, it's just like waking up to that realization. You know what I'm saying? Waking up to, what do you deserve? It's your right. Like, for me, a big liberal thing out here is like, you know, a lot of black people like talking to allies, white allies, right? And it's like, you know, thank you for using your privilege. Thank you for this is a good white person. This is a, and I'm like, bro, I'm not gonna lie. I'll never thank a white person for treating me like a human being, bro. And never in my life. It's not happening. I don't care what happens. I am a human and I deserve that regardless. I'll never thank no white person for nothing, bro. It's just not happening. So even certain small things like that, knowing that you're worthy of freedom, you're worthy of, you know, of love, you're worthy of everything that you set your eyes to, everything that you look at, you're worthy of it. You know what I'm saying? And you know, it's very important what we doing, man. It's like it's Bell Hooks said this. This is what started like my creative like snowballing into doing stuff like this. Was Bell Hooks? She gave a talk on some type of TED talk or something like that, and she was ripping into Beyonce and all that stuff, you know. And she put Beyonce on the stake, man. I was like, hot damn. But she said something like this. She was like, what's important is alternate images, you know, seeing ourselves in different ways and different lights and uh different contexts. Is that can be the most revolutionary thing, you know, just that alternate images, you know. And when you see black men portrayed as this, black women portrayed as that, black gay folk portrayed as this, black trans people portrayed as victims all the time, you know, it downloads something into your mind. But those alternate images are extremely important. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and to see them all as human and worthy of love and understanding, right? These different images that we have, because we're not a monolith. We all aren't just one type of person. And I think, especially with black men, we have a period in time in our life where we think to be a black man, we got to be this one certain kind, right? We got to be tough. We got to be this, that, and the third. And that robs us of so much. Sometimes it robs people literally of their life,
Yeah.
right? Because they end up diving into something they got no business doing, but they just think that this is what they have to be because they black, they young black man. So I got to do this. This is the only way I feel comfortable. It's like, well, you believe that because they tell you the truth that we're all a monolith and we all are one way. And like you said, we're fluid people. You know what I mean? And a lot of that changing in the way we thinking, sometimes it comes really simple.
Yep.
Like I remember I talk to whenever I talk to kids and I say, you know, in school they'll tell you that enslaved people couldn't read. They're like, yeah, they couldn't. I'm like, now if I kidnap you and I take you to a whole nother country that speaks a language that you don't speak, you won't be able to read that language either.
It's not even,
and then a light comes on.
Language, man. And it's the wording, man. Isn't that crazy? It's the word.
Yeah. They changed the word and it's like a light. They're like, oh shit. They were kidnapped. I'm like, yeah. if I put a book in French in front of you, you won't be able to read that either. But I can't sit up here and say you can't read. You just can't read French.
Man.
And then they'll say, okay, yeah, I get that. And then I'm like, and then eventually the enslaved started teaching slave masters how to read. And the reason we couldn't speak this language because it was too simple. We had so many dialects in Africa. We come over here and just one word means all this. This shit was dumb to us.
And we created a dialect. If you look at early language, man, like the enslaved, how they spoke, they mixed all this Yoruba and Igbo in it. You know what I'm saying? It's like, bro, this is beautiful. Like, it's really beautiful. And then you got Gullah, you know what I'm saying? Gullah Geechee and all these different ways we preserved our Africanness into this Americanness. You know what I'm saying?
And think about how revolutionary that is, that we, you know, AAVE or however you pronounce it, is just all of our different dialects put together that they try to put a term on, right? They try to say slang, ebonics, whatever you want to say. but it's just this is our heritage all put together. And we're so ingenious that we've been able to create a whole language incorporating all these different, cultures that we can all speak. I don't care, you from Florida and somebody from New York, they can talk to each other and understand each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The person from New York might say, man, you sound country as hell.
Yeah.
But you're going to get what I'm saying.
Exactly.
They're like, yeah, I got you. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And that just speaks to ingenuity.
That's what Baldwin was saying. Black English, man, it is worthy of its own respect as well. The unfortunate thing is, which goes back to the surveillance and all that, and the infiltration. Now, Black English is being co-opted by everybody who ain't Black, and just because around Black person one time, now they speak like us, or now they listen to young NBA YoungBoy, so now they speak like us. I mean, I teach a lot of kids who are not Black. And they saying nigga up and down, and I'm like the nigga police out there, bro. You would,
Yeah.
I'll be that ain't your word. You ain't not this. You are not that. You have your own history. Embrace that. You not a nigga. It just shows, like you said, the ingenuity, because it catches like wildfire. And people covet us, right? They covet who we are. They covet what we have. They covet our ingenuity, so they copy it, right? The language being a beautiful example of that. We are so, there's always a new slang word like every year, bro.
Yeah.
And a slang term, and even the mainstream terms are not even reflective of what we have in our communities, right? So they envy, what I'm saying, that gold that is inside of us. So, man, it's a crazy thing to watch. So.
And like a lot of those traditions still live. Like, enslaved people were just bored by the English language, and we are just bored by it. That's why you see a new slang comes up every week, because we're so creative that we just refuse to just only call a hat a hat. Like, that's fucking boring to us. You know what I mean? We're like, I'm not gonna do that. So we keep coming up with different things because we're creative people. And you think about, we created Memorial Day. You know what I mean? You think about people that escaped from slavery, thinking, hey, let's invent this day of celebration. We are drenched in pain and drenched in death, and all we know is entrapment and enslavement. But then we can still be creative enough and have imagination to say, let's create this day of celebration to celebrate the people who passed on while fighting for our freedom. That shows the humanity that we are just naturally born with. And once you unlearn a lot of things, you can really start to praise that part of our history and of who we are as a people that, brings us together.
Exactly. Language is so communal, especially in our society as Black folk. It's religious, it's communal, and it's expressive. Like from the dozens niggas roasting each other to everything. It's like everything that we do is still Africa. And I believe as African Americans, there's a lot of resistance even from maybe our continental African family for us to identify as African. But if you really look at, our DNA, we are, what I'm saying? And anything that's not African about us has been beaten out of us, right? And it's not our fault. My Haitian side, Haitian family, Haitians are a lot more African, but if you look at their history, them niggas got rid of slavery like 18 whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like it was over.
Right.
So there was a cultural preservation that we don't have the privilege of having in America, because we were forced into this furnace, so to speak, to make the greatest nation in the world. Right? We didn't have time to always sit by and share our stories. We didn't have time to do. It was backbreaking labor. You know what I'm saying? Even more than a lot of other countries, because if you look at the power that America is directly correlated to enslaved labor. So we didn't have time to really be jovial people all the time, but we still found a way. And so that's where our culture comes from, is that resilience. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And, and I've learned so much from I know I made a post a couple of days ago, is that reading saved my life, and then it changed my life, because without understanding that, that our real history and understanding the different signs of ingenuity that we had, I was just doing whatever anybody around me was doing.
Yeah.
So if we're being destructive to our society, that's what I'm doing. I'm doing that all the way, right? So then I start reading these books, and I remember like reading the monster book and him saying, look, I know you fuck up shit. It's basically how he said, like, I know you think fucking up shit is the way to do it. But let me show you how you can really fuck up some shit and really change the people's life around you. And then I started reading that and understanding that, hey, you're put in a situation that is designed for you not to win. And your natural ego makes you think you can win within it, but you can't. So let me teach you how to stop living like that. So I read that. I'm like, okay, this shit here doesn't work. But the organization of gangs, we can use that to our advantage. So then I started reading Malcolm X, Huey P. Newton, and how Huey said, you know, one thing that made him start the Black Panther Party is that the organization he was in before that ignored the niggas on the corner, right?
Yep.
He said it was this black bourgeoisie because he was in college and the only thing they were concerned with was niggas that are in college. And Huey's older brother was a street dude. And he's like, I love my older brother. I'm not about to ignore him and ignore his plight just because he's not in college. And he was like, so I can't get down with these motherfuckers. I got to go find somebody who understands the niggas on the corner deserve freedom just like the niggas in college deserve.
Exactly.
And so reading that really changed how I look at just anything. You know what I mean? Like, I can't judge you for being, quote unquote, on the corner, especially because if I was on there with you, I got to respect your humanity and speak to you in a way that respects your humanity and can tell you, hey, look, bro, just trust me. This shit over here is not set up for us to win at all.
Yeah.
I don't judge you for being in it because I understand the victimizing of it, but let me just show you another way. And then depend on your natural wisdom to follow me in this other way.
Yep, exactly. And that's what you mentioning about ignoring niggas on a corner. It's like, okay, you end up replicating the same system of exclusivity and capitalism that the oppressor has if you ignore them.
Yep.
You know, and okay, a great example is the NAACP, right? When they chose Rosa Parks to be the face of that boycott. You know, well, we all know that a year prior, right, Claudette Colvin did the same thing. You know, and Claudette Colvin was dark skinned, and Claudette Colvin was 15 when she did it, and Claudette Colvin was pregnant. As she wasn't the image that they wanted to portray, so they ignored her. She's still alive. You know, where's her celebration? You know what I'm saying? Like, when you start to segregate the movement into levels and tiers and exclusivity, you end up replicating the same patterns that the oppressor does, and we end up oppressing those of us who don't play the part. You know what I'm saying? So we had a question in here actually. I mean, I don't know. Do you usually open up your joint to questions, or how do you get down?
I usually do, but my little stand and keep falling down, so I'm a little nervous to touch it.
Yeah. We had a question that said, it passed. I can't access it, but it's like, are there any rites of passage that we would like from African culture that we would like to see implemented in today's society, especially young boys? I mean, I don't even know enough about certain rites to even know, you know.
One thing that I learned from, and I read a book called So Far Gone by Ishmael Bey. And it's a book about child soldiers. And he talks about how he was indoctrinated into being a child soldier, right? Into the war in Africa. And he said how they did it was they first kidnapped you, and then they burn everything down. They burn your village down, so they burn your memory. And then they tell you that the only way that you can be safe is by joining us because everyone else wants to kill you, right? And he said the only way that they could come back from that world, because he was in that world for like 4 years, he said the only way they could come back is that they had to understand their roots in humanity, in African humanity and their culture is to treat each other as human, right? Is to say they notice you. They're happy you're here. So one thing that I'd like to see kind of more pronounced is that. You know what I mean? Is that theory of humanity and that theory of community to where we all share.
That's good.
Here's the boss right here.
Oh yeah, she the one. She keep it A1 with you. Huh? How you doing? How you doing?
Fine.
That's
Y'all still here
that's the boss.
talking?
Yeah, how long have we been talking? How long have we been talking? I don't know.
2 hours, man. We doing it, man. We
I'm scared. I'm scared to touch the phone because my thing keep falling down and my phone keep showing the roof and all
That roof is on fire.
beautiful. Some
but
I like. I'm still uneducated as far as the significance, and we can wrap it up if you need to. But I will, there's this thing where they put bottles, like a bottle tree, to catch the unwanted spirits, and I like certain things like that where obviously it's more like of a spiritual practice. I like incorporating things that have like a spiritual significance in like today. So I'm looking at certain rituals and certain things that I can incorporate. But yeah, man.
yeah, like another thing before we leave is I remember I read a book. Damn, I can't remember the name of it. But King Peggy, right? And this book's crazy. So it's an autobiography.
King Peck.
She was King Peggy, Pegggy. So she was a administrative assistant in D.C. and her uncle in Africa passed away. So then she gets a phone call and they're like, "Hey, we did a ancestral, celebration, and the ancestors chose you to be the new king." She's like, "What the hell? I live in D.C. How am I supposed to be a king?" They're like, "Look, we did it, and you were chosen by the ancestors. So now you got to do it, and you need to, you need to decide if you're gonna do it." And she didn't want to do it at first, and so she went over there, and she had to unlearn so much. And one of the biggest things that she had to unlearn was the fear of spirits, right? The fear, like you said, the fear of ancestral spirits. She had to understand to embrace that, to understand that people are looking at you at all times, and that the ancestors have your back. And so she would go in there and, she said that she was like riding around one day. It was like the day after she got the phone call, and she's just thinking about it. She's going to do this, and she don't think she can do it. And the ancestors said, "You have to do it." And she said it scared the hell out of her. She pulled over and she's like, she was raised not to believe in ghosts and all this type of stuff. But then she went over there and she saw how they were, pouring libations for ancestors, and they're calling for ancestors to speak to them. And a wind blow and they'll hear an ancestor. And she started to understand that like we're surrounded by our ancestors to give us guidance. And that's what she used to put a lot of things in place in Africa, to where she understood that I needed to be over here, right? I was chosen for a reason, because my presence was needed here. So she had to understand that these ancestral spirits are not demons and are not, what the commercialized version of Satan and all this stuff is. These are our people that passed on, that are here to tell us what we should do and how we should act. And she had to learn that, and she used that to her advantage.
Exactly. It's funny. At such a strong point, and the Christian society that we live in is definitely very anti-ancestral connection, and that's for a reason, right? They like to dissociate us, and you have to look at the war on ancestral connection in the Christian, the Christian church, because it's like it really was used to separate you from your history and from the power that's available to you. But even in the Bible, it says there's this verse that says we are surrounded by a cloud of witnesses, and that imagery is like people, the saints who have died before us, right, are surrounding us and praying for us, and it's the same concept, right? We have that power to draw on as Black folk. Our ancestors are very much a huge part of our power, and if we don't tap into that, man, it's a big loss. And until I embraced indigenous, belief system, I was operating at a lesser kind of like strength level, because it's like when you understand that your story is a part of a bigger story, that's when you understand your power.
Yep, that's when you really start to tap into your power, your presence, and just the life journey and the life struggle that you're in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When you understand, I'm not the only one struggling with this. I'm a part of a whole entire struggle. So let me do my part.
Exactly.
You know, I know how you said like you don't look at yourself as a leader. I'm kind of torn on that. Like somewhat, I'm a leader in my part. Like I play my part, and my part is to be one of the leaders in this this small section.
Exactly.
And this small section can birth so many other sections. So, you know, I always take that really, into consideration. I take that serious to just always show up. You know what I mean? And to always just be present and not to and be relatable and be reachable.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like anybody DMs me, I DM them back.
Yep.
Because I just want to be reachable. I want you to know, I show up. If I talk to kids, I'm showing up with a hoodie like this on and some sneakers because I want to be relatable. I don't want you to look at me like, oh, this is this 30-something-year-old man that I'm never gonna be like him, so I'm not gonna listen.
Yeah.
That's how I was when I was a teenager. Somebody come and talk to me, I'm like, this old ass nigga, I ain't trying to hear that bullshit. And then once they put that little white voice on, once I hear that for 1 second, I'm ignoring the rest of everything else they say.
Exactly.
Because you can pick that up. Like, man, this nigga ain't even being himself.
Yeah.
Why am I listen to him? So I try to just be as relatable as possible.
Man, and I think it's working for both of us, man. I think the people are catching on to what we're doing, and I feel like we're doing beautiful work, man, for real. So,
I do too, bro.
We need to start doing this more, bro. Like even just fellowship. You feel me? It's just like it's just like people talking and sharing community, man. We need to keep this up, But
yeah, we do. Yes, not the white. If there's two things that y'all can take from this conversation, niggatry is good. White voice is bad.
Bad. Look, do not call.
Embrace the niggatry.
Embrace it.
Don't be ashamed of it. Like, cause it's revolutionary, and don't undersize it. Don't undersell it at all.
Exactly.
Exactly.
No more code switching. Death to code switching. Death to respectability politics, and be who yourself wants to be. Embrace the self that you have carved out in your own mind, and the person that you want to be. You know what I'm saying? Especially as a Black person. So, man, I appreciate you for having me, man. I'm honored that you would give me time on your platform to speak, man. It's really dope, and I hope we can continue fellowshipping together, man.
Oh, we definitely will, man. I really appreciate you joining. I was like giddy about this. I remember I was like annoying my wife. I'm like, this dude has another black book club. He ain't talking like he a white dude. He got, you know what I mean? She's like, well, go ahead and do the fucking interview. I'm like, look, we can't do it this week, but we're gonna do it next week.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that from last week, man. We supposed to do it. I'm sorry about that, bro. But I'm glad.
No, I joined in to watch your book discussion, and that just made me more excited about having you on here to talk because, like I said, you were a leader talking to people about, a book and how it changed their life, and then it branched off into so many other beautiful conversations.
Exactly.
Like I don't really watch people's full lives too much, but I watched the whole thing, headphones on, I'm zoned in. So I appreciate it, and I'm gonna grab my Another Country book. And I'm gonna join you on your next talk.
Bet man, and save this video, man, because this was it's one for the archives, bro. Save this, John. This is beautiful. It was a beautiful talk. I really enjoyed myself, man.
Oh, definitely. I'm gonna go ahead and save it right after we get off of here.
All right, bro. I appreciate you, and you let me know what we doing next, bro. I'm active, man.
That's a bet. Hey, we're gonna do something real soon.
All right, bro. God bless you, man.
All right, bro. I appreciate you. I appreciate everybody for joining us. This was a long discussion, but I really enjoyed it. I really had a good time. Thank you for everybody that watched us. And we're going to have Goldmouth Book Club back on here real soon. I'll be joining on his platform real soon. So please hit the follow. I had his page pinned, and I don't know what happened. I'm not too good on Instagram. But join his community. Please follow him and we'll be having this discussion again real soon. Thank you.